And tonight, I'm delighted to have back my friend and yours, Roger Bidwell, Hall of Fame coach.
Thank you, Marty.
And I'm honored to have you on the set, and thank you for carving out an hour of your time to come in here and contribute.
It's been a while since I've been here.
Well, I haven't forgotten you.
I know that, but I see you out and about. So we talk in between my visits here. But thanks, sir. I enjoy coming out and talking with you about current events.
Well, and there's certainly plenty to talk about. But I think what I'd like to start off with is, how's your golf game?
I played today, and the first time since November for all you golfers out there down in Westerly. It was about 65, and I had an 82, not bad, and a couple birdies. And so encouraged. It might be the best I do all year. It's a strange game.
So you haven't been going down south then to play?
No, not this year. I've stayed up here, and so hey, when May 1st comes around, that's normally when you get out regular around here.
Yeah. Now, as a coach, do you miss the southern trips with your team and the guys and getting started in the competition?
Yeah, this is usually by the 10th of March we'd go down to Florida. Vero Beach for a number of years and Cocoa Beach for 20 years. And it was like you're practicing indoors and outside when you can in February up here, right? And you're trying to get everybody ready to play a game, and you go down there and now it's 80 degrees and you got to play a game. And I was always amazed how well we did, always going, how do we go down there? And we played well. We always did well down there. And but it was so nice to finally get down there and just play baseball, because the difficult part of the trip, of course, is all the work that goes into getting there, raising the money, getting the players in shape, all the logistics.
You bus down there or fly?
We always flew. And the logistics of the trip and the whole lot of work. But when you finally got there, it was like, oh, now let's enjoy the game. Let's try to win. It was all baseball, because it was like 10 to 12 games in 6 or 7 days.
Oh, wow. All double headers just about.
2 a day, yeah.
Well, that's something. And I see one of your proteges, Travis Wussele, he's took a day down at Ocean Beach to practice outdoors.
You know, it made me laugh, because Travis might have gotten that from me.
That's what I heard.
He did hear that, because I recall doing that myself, but always in Groton doing that at the beach at Groton. We would do that, and those stories are still out there about that. The wind blowing off the Thames River, about 30 knots, and we're trying to do first and third defenses. I don't know how much we got accomplished, but I figured we got to do something, right? We did some wacky things to get ready to go to Florida, stuff people wouldn't believe. But that was. Well,
but you helped build an esprit de corps with your team too.
I think we did, because we did so many wacky things trying to get ready. After a while, the players embraced it. So, what's Bidwell going to do now? I mean, we'd be out there with snow blowers blowing 2 feet of snow out of the batting cages so we can go out there and hit. At 25 degrees and the wind blowing off the water at Avery Point. But we'd hit out there. He says, I don't care if it's for a half hour, we're going to go out and we're going to hit. Because I'd rather spend half hour outside than 3 hours in the gym. Because I didn't think we ever got much done in the gym besides break windows.
Right. Well, I've been led to believe that one of your stalwarts in your program recently retired.
Scott Martin.
Yeah, I didn't know him personally, other than to observe him when I would attend baseball or basketball games over at Avery Point, but he was a presence and he took care of business.
Yeah, we had a great relationship, Marty, starting in 1988. And Scotty, the people who know him all love him because he was a special needs person who ended up being probably one of the best people I ever hired, the most loyal, trustworthy, hardworking people I ever hired. And I had hired a lot of good people. And we developed a great relationship over the years. I always tell him he was like a third son to me. And I always thought it was a great story because he ended up being somebody that just wanted to learn and take on more responsibility. And he did. And he did it with great passion. And he loved the teams, not just working with baseball, but all the teams, and running activities at the facility. And everybody that used the facility knew Scotty and appreciated who he was. So it really was a great marriage.
Yeah, I was surprised when I heard that he retired. I didn't think he was that old, to be honest with you. He's had a very vim and vigor, and he scooted around and looked young as well.
When I first met him, he was 18
I'm only
years
35.
old.
I mean,
you look very good too for 35. You embarrass me how good you look. But he was 18 years old when I first met him. We were down in Washington Park, and this young man was bringing balls back to the dugout, foul balls. It was Scotty. He came to me, and he had mud up to his ankles, to his knees almost, with balls hit into the swamp and back of left field. And he brought the ball back to me. And he's all covered with mud. I go, who is this guy? Who does this? It was him. So after a while, he kept on showing up. So I had, who are you? And hey, maybe we can give you more to do. And that's how it grew.
That's fantastic. That's a good story. That's and he deserves all kudos for his work and. Yeah.
We were the best of friends, and like I say, he's like a third son to me, and always will be.
Well, I think that's terrific. Well, one thing I'm curious to get your take is whether or not we're going to have professional Major League Baseball this season, or are these guys going to get locked out for the season? What's your feeling on this?
In time, there will be a season.
Will it open up on April 1st or whatever opening day is?
No, I wouldn't bet on that one. I would say May 1st might be a better bet, I would say. For it to happen on April 1st, things would have to really come together quickly. They say for that to happen, they'd have to, by March 1st, have settled and get the players to spring training, so they have 3 weeks of training before they could start playing real games on April 1st. For that to happen, that seems kind of unrealistic. I think we got a better chance for May 1st. I hope no longer than that, because if you miss April, you're missing 30 games. So if you're missing 30, 40 games, now you're down to a 120-game season. I'd hate to see it be any shorter than that.
Well, I just don't know who's thinking in these negotiations. I mean, baseball takes a hit with this, and I don't necessarily think for the good. Well,
right. I think, but it has to happen every so often when their contract is completed. But they go how long this labor agreement is going to be. When it runs out, this always happens. And what happens is it's always about money, right? And so each side is trying to squeeze as much as they can, out of that orange for their concern. The players are trying to better their position. Some of their issues are, what I understand, is first-year players, minimum salary. What is minimum salary for new players? And they want that to go from $550, which it is now, to about $750. And if you don't know if you know this now, but about 55% of the players in the league are on minimum salary. That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, about $500,000 or $750,000 a year, it's still not a bad paycheck.
Yes, indeed. It is. It is. And for the regular person, they go, what's the big deal here? But the average lifespan of a major league player is 3.5 years.
Really, I thought there was like a football player that they're
That surprised me too when I heard that. It's 3.5 years. So what in our mind as a fan, we think of the guy that has the $350 million contract, the $35 million a year. That is only on a hand or two of people that have that kind of a deal. Most of the players are only in the league 3 or 4 years, and they're making minimum salary. So they got to make their money in a short period of time. So I see where they're coming from on that. And of course, there's other issues, on arbitration. When are you going to be eligible for arbitration? Now it's after 3 years. I want to make that after 2 years. So it's all about money.
Well, isn't it always? I mean,
It always is. Yeah, it is. So what's coming down the pike? I think also there's going to be issues coming up about electronic strike zone, which is in place for the minor league for AAA this coming year. I think a lot of people predict you're going to see it in the big leagues in the near future.
What do you think of that?
Well, as a old-time baseball person, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that one because I always like the human element of the game, and umpiring is a big part of that. I always like the interaction between the umpires and the coaches. That's why I'm not a huge fan on replay. Okay, I understand why they have replay because they want to get the calls right, and the fans want it right. They don't want to be the victim of a bad call that costs them a game. I understand that, but for me, attractive part of the game always was the human element of it, where the coaches, the managers, the players, the interaction with the umpires, and the whole part of it is taken out of the game now.
Yeah, well, even the level of having the manager at the major league level come storming out of the dugout to argue a call. I mean, you don't see that.
Wasn't that fun?
I mean, I'm envisioning Earl Weaver coming out and turning his hat around and kicking dirt on home plate, and part of the entertainment.
It was part of the game. Billy Martin, we'll name a couple, were really good at it. Earl Weaver's a great example. Billy Martin was nobody better than Billy kicking dirt on you, turning his cap, covering the plate up with dirt, right? Gene Mock with the Twins going back even further. He used to throw the fungo bats and the batting practice balls on the field as he was getting thrown out of the game. So it took 5 to 10 minutes to clean up the field because there's 100 balls on the field. I tried that once down in South Jersey. I did that once.
Once.
I did it once. I said, that looks like fun.
And what was the repercussion for that?
I think I watched it from the van, the rest of the game. I think it was getting cold, if I remember, and I didn't mind
wanted to get into
going
that
to the van.
heated van, huh?
I did, yeah. So
it must have been a March or April game,
It was South Jersey, and it was in the high 30s, and the wind was blowing pretty hard. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Between some of the new statistics and new rules to attempt to speed things up, and as well as the strategy in baseball of 100 pitches and 5 innings for a starter, the level of specialization, I don't know how appealing that is. I mean,
It's not.
As a fan.
It's not. I think if you took a survey, and most baseball people would say the game isn't as attractive because of those reasons. A couple of things I would think could help the game, though, when you talk about speeding up the game, is one, keep the batter in the box. Just don't walk out of the box, fix your batting gloves and all the stuff that must stay in the box. That's number one. 2, once the pitcher gets the ball on the mound, give him X amount of time to pitch to the plate. I think those 2 things would go a long ways in speeding the game up. Simple as that. These other stuff they put in place, like they put into place ball 4, just send them down. Well, that saved a heck of a lot of time, didn't it?
To me, that annoys me because, I mean, the human element, and when you're going to intentionally walk a guy, but occasionally there's a wild pitch.
It's part of the game.
Occasionally the pitch comes in and the guy can smack it.
It's part of the game. Again,
You
I
just
agree.
can assume.
I agree completely. And how many times does that come up? If your purpose is to quicken the pace of play up, how much are you actually saving by sending him down? You're not selling it. It might happen once a game, maybe. The ball. Sometimes they walk somebody on purpose in the game. Maybe once, right? So again, that's window dressing. It's not really getting at the real issue. You want to get at the real issue? Let's get at the real issue. You want to save time? Let's settle on something that will really make a difference.
Have less commercials.
That's not happening.
Well, but that would certainly reduce the time of the game.
You're so right about that. That's why there's 2 to 3 minutes now, because they got to get their ads in. But I don't know if that one's changing.
It probably won't, but to me, that's the biggest culprit.
That is a good one. Yeah, but I think that's not going to happen.
Well, not with the money that's involved. Get back to the money.
Okay. Yeah, follow the money is right. Yeah.
But baseball being such a game of statistics and numbers, I on Facebook I get periodically these baseball statistics. St. Louis Cardinals and the list of all their guys that have hit the most home runs, or the stolen bases, or a whole bunch of different things. And I find it interesting, especially going back to when I was a younger guy, a kid even, and to see the names that are still relevant. But they had that the season was the same. Here, if we have a lockout, they play 120 games. Well, that throws that off.
It does.
And also for the players to achieve certain milestones or benchmarks, the Hall of Fame, and some of the benchmarks that we've grown to accept are becoming really almost unachievable. 3,000 hits and 300 wins, and
I think the 300 wins are out the window now.
They don't get enough starts, and even with the starts, they don't get enough innings.
That's right. So that 300 innings or 300 wins is not happening in today's game. Now the benchmark is 200 innings. They say that's amazing, because what do you get? 30 starts, 32 starts in a 4-man rotation, something like that. I mean, in a 5-man rotation, It's 32 starts. So, and then they pull them out after 5 innings, and they're not getting the decision. So now 10 to 12 wins is a big deal, I guess. And 100 and 200 innings is like a huge deal.
Yeah, we don't see 20-game winners.
Well, if you average 5 innings a start, which a lot of these guys do, and you make all your starts, which many guys don't, 5 times 32, I think is 160 in my math.
Yeah.
That's 160 right there. Then you're a long ways away from 200. So in order to get 200 innings, you make all your 32 starts, you got to be between 6 and 7 innings average per start. Right? Because if you average 7 innings times 32, okay, now we're up to 210 to 220 innings, right? So a little bit less than 7 will get you there. Nobody's doing that. Nobody. It's like amazing. The guy went 7 innings. Amazing. The guy's great.
And I don't necessarily, I mean, as a fan, and that's what I am as a fan, I don't necessarily like that. I mean, it was fun to watch Jim Palmer against Louis Tiant. Both these guys are well over 100 pitches.
More like closer to 200 than 100. if you go back and look at some of them, there's some games
150,
documented.
160 pitches.
Exactly, and they're going 11, 12 innings. Imagine that. They'd fire the manager today if they do something like that. You're going to blow them out. And it's, those guys pitch longer than they do, much longer than the pitchers do today. So sometimes you might want to reevaluate, why you're doing something. And some of the things that they're doing might make sense to them, except that the results aren't backing up. The data is not backing up their theory that less is more. Less throwing, less innings, less pitches, you'll be able to have less injury.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
And you get a big guy who throws darts up there, and they bring in another big guy, and he throws more darts. I mean, it's also, you don't get as many balls in play.
Much less balls in play, which leads to less action on the field. And all those great defensive players out there don't get as many balls hit to them, so you don't get to see them do what they do best. I mean, as a baseball man as you are, it's fun to watch not just the offensive side of the game, but defensive plays, great plays defensively. And we just don't get a chance to see as many anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the
and
swing
that's one of the
missing.
things that, I was told years ago that, one of the big differences between the minor league, AA, AAA, and the big leagues is because some of those guys look terrific in the minors. You wonder why they're not in the show. But it's how fast the guys are and how many balls they get to at the big league level. I mean, at the minor leaguer, he'll miss it by this much, but the big leaguer, he makes the play.
It can be a fine line. It really can be a fine line between making it and not making it. And what you're talking about is somebody who could be a career AAA player who's a terrific player, and maybe if they had a break or two would have made it to the big leagues. But they're just a little short in that area, never gets his chance. And that gets us back to, if you are the pro that makes it to the big leagues, I don't hold it against him to get as much as he can while he's there, because it's very difficult to get there. There's only so many jobs, and you're only in the league for an average of 3.5 years. So I do not fault them for trying to squeeze as much as they can as possible. The owners are going to own the team forever, right? The Steinbrenners still own the Yankees after all these years, the family. But the players come and go. The players have their opportunity to make some good money, yes, but they have a short period to do it. And it could end at any moment with a severe injury of someone or other. So I'm all for the player in this respect.
Well, we'll see how things shake out this spring as we move into baseball season. But
May 1st, okay? I think
Yeah.
May 1st is what we're looking at.
But one of the back to the issue of making it, and a few of these lists that I've seen have listed the number one draft picks in a particular year of all the teams, and there may be one or two studs out of that group, and these are the number one picks. And how many of them, maybe a third to a half, maybe don't make it at all, or they just get a quick hit and they're done. And then there's others that become solid pros, but they're not all-stars.
I guess what it's proved is that it's difficult to evaluate people. It's an imperfect science. Trying to project human beings, whatever it may be, whether it's playing baseball or whatever it may be. The human element's a difficult thing. The human nature, the human condition is a difficult thing to predict. And no matter how much time and scouting you do, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Folks, you're watching City Focus, and I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm joined tonight by Roger Bidwell, a Hall of Fame coach, and we're talking primarily sports and baseball, but we're open for just about anything. And if you'd like to offer your contributions to the program, please give us a call at 860-440-3154, and we'd be delighted to hear from you. In the same vein, an impact that we've had locally at the minor league level is losing the Norwich franchise. And how Major League Baseball's made that decision to basically consolidate or contract a minor league ball. And the impact that's going to have on baseball and the players and the ability of the young men to make it to the show. I mean, it seems to me it heightens that level of competition if there's less players, less teams.
And I find it very short-sighted for MLB to do this. The cost of some of these organizations and teams isn't that much. And that's 40 teams we're talking about. Go from 160 to 120, 25%. They get rid of. And the Norwich, as you say, Norwich is one of the franchises, and that's eliminating a lot of jobs. 40 teams times a 25-man roster. That's a lot of players that don't have a chance to develop and come out of that. I mean, Rajay Davis never would have been. He got drafted in the 38th round. Now the draft is 20 rounds. Rajay Davis never would have played. He never got an opportunity, and he's not the only example of that. And so I find it very short-sighted to be cutting back on these teams, which aren't that much of an expense to put on the field, because you need player development. And the only way for player development to happen is you need the opportunity to play and to be worked with. So I find it short-sighted. They have their reasons. They'd have to answer what their reasons are. I only can speculate, Marty, on what their reasons are for cutting back. But I have a problem with it. I don't like it.
Yeah, and I don't either. I mean, the next book on my reading list is on Branch Rickey and his tenure with the Cardinals. And during that time frame, I mean, he, if I understand correctly, he basically invented minor league baseball. And I remember as a kid, you would have AAA, AA, A, B, C, D, Pony League, Rookie League. I mean, there were loads of independent leagues. There was lots of minor league ball.
And now each team has a AAA, a AA, a rookie team, and 2 single-A teams. So they might have five or six minor league teams. That's it. Or in the past, it might have been double that when the heyday of the game.
Yeah.
So that's not going to change. They made their decisions. They moved forward. I'd like to hear their reasoning for it. I haven't heard all their reasons for it. I think they were looking to standardize all the playing facilities to get them up to speed to a professional level. They thought there was a certain amount of them that were not up to professional level. I'm not saying they thought that of Norwich, because they wiped out the whole league. You know, the whole league was gone. But I think that was part of it. They thought some were substandard professional minor league facilities that were being used weren't up to their standards. But
well, you know, it's part of, at least for me anyway, part of the fun of baseball growing up and with the minor leagues is having some of these ballparks or at the major league level stadiums that are a little bit, Fenway Park type, where you've got a wall or you've got oddball dimensions or whatever it may be that makes your ballpark unique.
Yeah.
Tiger Stadium with an overhang and the upper deck into the playing field.
The other ones left are Wrigley and Fenway, I believe. What you're
original,
referring to.
yeah.
Original type fields like that with their own character, and own dimensions, and they're different. And I find that attractive.
Well, yeah, I do too.
I like going to the Wrigley and Fenway, even though the seats are too small for me. And there's some block seats, and it's not perfect. That's some of the charm of Fenway Park.
Yeah, well, I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to Wrigley a few times, and it's. I think it's worth the price of admission. Just get in there once if you can.
Got to go there. That's got to be on your bucket list if you're a baseball person, is to visit Fenway and to visit Wrigley. And the other one I'd like to go, I haven't been to, is Dodger Stadium. That's been there for how many years? 56, was it? 55?
It goes back to, 1960? The 1959 series was in the Coliseum.
Yeah, so is it 60 when they built that? And it's still a really nice facility.
Yeah, I've never been there for a game. I've been outside Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine. As a kid, we had a family trip out to Southern California, and so my father took us to see the stadium. But this is February, so we weren't there during ball season.
Yeah.
But, and I've been in the dome up in Toronto. Again, that was on a tour, not for a ball game.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Toronto's a great city to go to. Anybody there's people out there who want to hit every ballpark in Major League Baseball. Toronto and the city of Toronto, I recommend completely. You've been there, but it was a nice time.
Yeah. Well, I have that as a lifetime goal to hit all the cities. I mean, if I've hit a ballpark, I don't necessarily feel I have to go back to the new one, but I have to. West Coast is what's killing me. I've got to get to. I've been to Seattle. I actually saw Pedro Martinez pitch in Seattle. But the Giants and the A's, Dodgers, Angels, and Padres, and Toronto. Those are the ones that I have not been to. I've been to all the others.
Yep. I've been to San Diego. Nice. Have not been. I've been to San Francisco, but it was in the off season, so I wasn't able to get in. Didn't go to a game there. I heard Seattle's terrific. Is that Safeco?
Yeah.
Okay. I heard that's a terrific ballpark and a place to go. So I have some myself. I got to hit.
Yeah. So I'll have to either do it in one or two trips out west. I think.
I think that's a nice trip on the West Coast. Yeah. And on the way home, stop in Colorado.
Yeah, well, I've been to Colorado, in Denver for a Kiwanis convention in '98, and while there, that was in June or July, and went to a ball game.
Nice.
That was a nice stadium.
And you like it?
Yeah.
You like it. Yeah, it looks great. Is it still called Coors Field?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, Coors Field, yeah.
Yep, that's part of the fun of it. I think baseball is unique that way. I mean, the football stadiums have gotten to be all so the same. There's not a lot of, and they're all 100 yards and 50 yards wide or 53 or whatever the width is.
Yep.
Not much to differentiate.
No. And they're mostly artificial turf fields. All the new ones seem to be.
Yeah.
Which I love to see a football game on grass.
Well, I see the uniforms get stained with
Stained.
mud and dirt.
They play a full game and nobody's uniform's dirty. And they're playing in the mud once in a while. Kind of, that's part of the game, right? But again, this is how things have changed. Look at talking about that in facilities, Marty. Where the Super Bowl was, Sci-Fi Field in Los Angeles.
I believe so.
$4 or $5 billion facility. It looks like a spaceship to me. What a beautiful place, though. When you go and you look at it from the outside, it doesn't look like a traditional stadium. But $4 or $5 billion for that. Shows you how much money there's in NFL. How much there is.
Well, it's patently absurd.
We love it. We love football in this country, and we love to bet on it. And sports gambling is exploding now, as you know, where you can do it on your phone, you can do it in real time, you can bet on anything. That extra money's more revenue coming in to the NFL, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's become like a $15 billion business a year now. It's unbelievable, the money. It doesn't stop. Americans love football. Why do they love football? Well, they love contact, but they love gambling on sports, and football's the best game to gamble on. It used to be in my day, just pick the winner and loser, watch the game. Not anymore. You bet on a million things during the game.
How many first downs are...
Which, as you know, there's going to be issues from gambling issues come out of this, of course, right?
Well, it's funny as a kid growing up, and you and I are we're running about the same age. I mean, it was kind of like, one of these deals here, you go blind if you were gambling. It was, an alley thing to do. I mean, or guy with trench coats kind of.
No, you turn on a football game, they all want to give you their picks, and they let you know what the line is, and everything you can bet on. It's totally acceptable now. The money's too big to resist now. Now we have it in Connecticut sports gambling, right? Gaming. And it's only the beginning. This is just the beginning.
They're gambling on college too, aren't they? I mean,
yes.
Is it?
Oh, yes. If you go to Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods, you can bet on all sports gambling, but Connecticut schools, they don't allow that.
Now, will they allow gambling at the Division III level?
Well, if you can get a line at it, my guess is if they could get a line on two cats fighting down on Coleman Street, you could let you gamble on that too. But I don't know if they can get any lines on the Division III games. Hey, Mike, forget about that. How about the high school games? That'd be the next thing, right? Stuff that we thought would never happen. And that's one of the things that will never happen, right? Hey, who knows in the future?
Well, what's happening in high school is, in terms of the athlete's ability to move. I mean, you'd grow up, and if you were in whatever community you were in, that's where you went to school, and you played for our old town team.
We never dreamed this up, right? What's going on?
Couldn't even dream this up.
So dream up as extreme as you want right now. Someday it's probably going to be reality. If it's lines on high school sports, don't count any of that out. That's just the way things go.
But I think that when you start getting into the kids, you find the youngsters, and often they're the adults, behaving badly, which has been exhibited here in the region the last few weeks at basketball games.
True.
It's been really it's a sad commentary.
And Southeastern Connecticut didn't corner the market on that, by the way.
Oh no,
that's everywhere, and we're just a small part of that. But this is what's out there now for whatever reason. It's supposed to be, especially at the high school level, amateur, right? Sportsmanship. We all want to win. We try hard, but hey, we're trying to teach the right lessons. Lessons.
But I tell you, I'm not a fan of these handshake lines after the games, and I never have been. I mean, that was picked up from the National Hockey League, which they do that only in the playoffs at the end of the series. So they're not shaking hands after every game. The game's over, they go to their locker rooms and they go about their business. But I think this kind of false sportsmanship, it's an accident waiting to happen, and from time to time does.
You're referring to Juwan Howard and the University of Michigan, which just happened,
well, it
and
could
the
be
handshake line.
Yeah, that was a handshake
That
line.
never would have happened, right?
Right.
And that was kind of a foolish thing that turned into an ugly thing, right? But that's a lot of people have now commenting on why do we have it. That has come forward again, that argument, that discussion. Why do we have handshake lines? Because people really don't mean it. They're still hot after the game. Nothing really good has ever happened because of it. Well, this was an example of it.
At least that's one man's opinion. I mean, obviously others differ, but I think this is still America. We still are allowed to have some differences of opinions. It's not all one way completely. As hard as some people are trying.
No, I agree with you. I think if people want to go say hi or know somebody on the team, you're free to do that. But the mandate that we get in line and we do this, shake the hands when nobody really cares or doesn't want to do it, they're still hot right after the game, emotions are running high, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree with you there. But if you want somebody over there, you want to go shake hands with, hey, how you doing? Fine, let it go. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, the opposing teams, almost at all levels, would view your opponent as the enemy. I mean, you were not you didn't want to be interacting with them, and that could be New London playing Fitch or Hartford High or whatever. I mean, you kind of just go your own way. But you see at with the pro football after a game, and often at the professional level, the players, they know each other. With free agency, there's more movement than there was. There's a different. The attitude is different. The players kind of feel like, I think, a fellowship amongst them all, and that may be with the bargaining unit that drives that.
I agree. No,
which didn't exist in the 60s or 50s.
Billy Martin wouldn't allow his players to talk to him, during the game. Like, you get on first base, and you might know the first baseman out of the team. You don't talk to him. You wouldn't talk to him. They're the enemy, like you say. That's long gone. That's long gone now. You're out there, they're joking around, and it's like a party out there with these guys.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you what your take is on the recent, well, not just recent, but with the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame, and with Ortiz being the only current, the new guy going in. There was a number of, I don't know what the term is there, but the players that go back, Minnie Minoso and others that made their way in or going to be
through the Veterans Committee.
Veterans, yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, the Veterans Committee, I think Phil Rizzuto got in that way, possibly too, where there weren't. You have 15 years, I think, whatever it is.
Been cut back from 15 to 10 now.
It's 10, okay. Yeah, and the Veterans Committee can now get people on the Hall of Fame. So, what do I think about that? There's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame that aren't Hall of Fame players.
Good players. Very good players.
Good players. You water down the Hall of Fame, then it's not the Hall of Fame anymore. You just ruined a great thing. But, the Hall of Fame isn't part of Major League Baseball. It's a museum. What's a museum? It's for us to recognize the history of the game. That's what a museum is. That's what the Hall of Fame is. It isn't necessarily getting all the best players there, even though that's what they're trying to do. But, when you have a museum for me is trying to keep in place for posterity the history of the game, good and bad. Good and bad. Okay, that's part of history, right?
Well, absolutely.
And this is what the Hall of Fame for me should represent.
I jotted down a few names. That guys that are, I think, there's Barry Bonds, Clemens, Palmero. There's an A-Rod. There's a number of players that are not in and may never get in due to the steroids. And if I'm not mistaken, that during that time frame, that it was not illegal. It may have given them an advantage, but it wasn't, illegal in the game.
Correct.
So here you're being penalized.
Correct. And many of them were not tested positive. Barry Bonds, an example. Roger Clemens, an example. Everybody assumed. But if you go back, they never tested positive. But they are held out because the people who vote on this, the writers, right? They say, oh, they used steroids. We know they did, so I'm not voting for them. Or they didn't like him, like a Barry Bonds. He was an unlikable guy.
Yeah.
But is that what the Hall of Fame is about? It's not about a personal thing because he didn't talk to you. It's about the history of the game. They're the best players from their era. Whether they used or they didn't, okay, who's to say the players they played against weren't using steroids also? So I call that an even playing field. Okay, maybe Barry was on human growth, but maybe the pitcher was on steroids himself. That's even, right?
Yeah, I mean, my attitude toward this has kind of evolved over time. I mean, initially it was kind of a little anger, but you look at things as things evolve. And I think Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. I mean, years ago I don't think I did, but
I'd like to see him.
How do you have the guy who has the most hits?
How do you keep him out of the Hall of Fame? How do you do it?
And I just don't necessarily subscribe to it. I mean, I don't think he's a very pleasant guy. He's arrogant as all get-go. But the guy could play.
He could play, and that's what we're talking about, the history of the game once again. So yeah,
and penalized for actions as a manager, not as a player, if I understand correctly.
Well, betting on the game. They bet on the game. Okay, fine. That's fine. But again, we're talking about the history of the game. He's an important part of that history. Good, bad, or indifferent, he is. Most hits. He's a huge figure in the game. That's why, if you're asking me, all these people we discussed that aren't in, I vote for him in. I struggle with the same things over the years that you have. I've come to this conclusion now, after all these years, put him in. If you want to have a certain part of the museum you put him in, that's fine. Put him in. That's how I would do it.
Yeah. And you still got to hit the ball.
You do.
I mean, at least that's when the pitchers are still throwing the ball and the ball's still moving. I don't. Major league pitchers don't throw straight balls.
No, they don't. No, they don't. So, for me, Marty, I'm with you 100%. I like that to happen. I don't see it happening much. You can get into philosophical differences about should sports writers be voting for these players that they've never seen play. Okay, that's another thing. They've never maybe seen them play, but they're voting on whether they should be in the Hall of Fame. Should the players who played in that era have votes? Who should be voting on all this? That there might be a better way to determine who belongs in that Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I brought up Minnie Minoso because, he's a little bit before my time. And when he was elected by the Veterans Committee, I had a furrowed brow. But as I've seen his statistics, compared to what we're accustomed to seeing today, the guy would have been a load. I mean, he terrific player. In his era, he was a very good player as well. I mean, is he, was he Willie Mays or that level? No, but there's only one Willie Mays.
That's true. That's true.
Willie Mays is a Hall of Fame player.
No, without question. Who, far as we know, didn't use anything to enhance his performance. Okay? And even before the steroid era, you talk about enhancing performance, the use of speed.
Amphetamines
Was common. Before every game so they could get ready to play the games. Pete Rose was accused of that, and all the players of that era. That is performance-enhancing drugs.
Yep.
What's the difference between that and the steroid use? They're both performance-enhancing. But we don't keep people out because we knew that they used speed, amphetamines, did we? No.
And it was a big deal with baseball, and football players were taking steroids, and there's no discussion about that at all.
No, there isn't. No, is it? And I'm sure it's a huge issue, right?
I mean, some of these guys got pretty big.
They're much bigger than they used to be, right? They're no longer 250-pound linemen anymore.
No.
It's a big difference. Big difference. So that's how I look at it, that issue.
Yeah. I saw a post. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but Mike Bassetto from Philomena's was extolling the skills of his son Mikey, who apparently is the leading assist man in all of college basketball.
Oh, is he?
Division 1, 2, and 3. And
is he? How many is he averaging a game?
Close to 9, 8.7 or something along those lines.
And that's the most in college basketball?
That's what he said. I mean, I have nothing to compare it to, but I'll take Mike at his word on this.
I will too, yeah. I am too. And Mitchell's doing well. I'm following. They're doing very well. I think they're playing a game tonight, a semifinal game at Mitchell. I thought, if my recollection is correct. Yeah. So they've really come on. And they have a lot of local players.
Yeah, I enjoy watching the local guys. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy with Conn and Avery Point. Well, I hear the credits and the music. It looks like our time has coming to a close.
That went fast.
It did. I want to thank you as always for coming
Marty.
in. Roger, you're always a pleasure to come in, and we'll have you again.
Touch. We have so much to talk about.
We can stay away from politics. I don't know about that. Folks, we'll see you next week on City Focus. Good night.